now available on e-readers everywhere. From the author of the Simp Trilogy, Stop Simping, Why Men Don't Need Finance to Get Romance. Manginas, they look like men, but they act like ladies. And the misadventures of Captain Save-A-Ho comes, Stop Simping in the Workplace. Learn what mistakes not to make with women and protect your job with Stop Simping in the Workplace. Available on e-readers everywhere. One of my viewers, Chris Miller, suggested that I do a seminar after watching my video where I discussed the reasons why Bill O'Reilly was terminated for getting involved with a workplace side piece. And in this video, I'm going to do a seminar about predatory females. Now, I was watching one of Chris Miller's videos, and he was talking about this light-skinned female manager who was new to the job in his workplace. And he was talking about how many of the men in his workplace were out here simping on this female, pretty much submitting to her, deferring to her, not in a managerial way where there is a structure and an order, but they were looking to get brownie points with this female. And this happens quite a bit in many workplaces where there are women in positions. Instead of the males focusing on their job and doing their job to the best of their ability, they go out of the extra mile in the hopes of getting the attention and approval of this female. Unfortunately, these guys pretty much don't understand that they're working against themselves. When you are in the workplace, you are there for 3 reasons. 1 is to master a skill or a craft. 2, you are there to pretty much accomplish the goals you want to accomplish professionally for yourself. And 3, you are there to pretty much make money so that you can take care of yourself and build a foundation for yourself and your family. Unfortunately, many simps, they pretty much throw these priorities outside of the window whenever a female enters the workplace, and they start working towards getting her attention and her approval. Unfortunately, what they don't understand is they don't understand that many of these females in the workplace are predatory, and they will take a guy and use him to move themselves up at their expense. And they'll look at these simp males and they'll start using them to do their work. And this is something that many simps don't understand regarding women in the workplace. When you submit to them and defer to them, you are pretty much setting yourself up to be taken advantage of by these females, because these females will pretty much use you to do their work, and then they will go out and get a promotion at your expense, and they will leave you behind and then leave you to stay in the same dead-end job where you will remain, and you won't move yourself forward. This is why you have to have your head on straight and your priorities straight when you deal with these females on the job. Whenever I interact with a female on a job, I keep it professional, and I establish a hard boundary between myself and those females from day one. I let them know that it's all about business, and there's nothing that's going to go on besides business. And what a lot of guys don't understand is that whenever you're dealing with a female, especially a predatory one in the workplace, she's going to try to do everything in her power to blur the boundaries. And she'll start out in subtle ways to try to blur the boundaries by asking you to do little things like doing jobs that you're not supposed to do, doing tasks you're not supposed to do. And that is her way of crap testing you to see how far she can push you to the wall. And if she can get you to start breaking rules on the job, breaking policies on the job, and breaking boundaries on the job, she's going to see if she can push you further. And this is something I ran into when I was working at City College of New York in their science library. Now, the pro-black female I was working with decided, because their budget had run out for the student workers, she was going to ask me to do some overtime that was unpaid. And when I did the overtime for one Friday, she decided to go the following Monday and ask me to work some more overtime by making the statement, "Sean, I can't work all these hours." And that's when the light bulb pretty much, went off in my head, and I saw that this whole overtime thing was a way to pretty much crap test me and then see how far she could push the boundaries. And that's when I put the hard line in the sand and said, no, I cannot work those late hours, because what she wanted me to do was work some late hours till 11 o'clock at night, and She didn't want to work the hours, and when she said, I can't work all these hours, it was based on her not being able to work the hours, and she wanted to use me to pretty much do her work for her. And this is something guys have to understand with these females. They will try to crap test you to push boundaries. And if they can get you to go all the way to the wall, they will pretty much get you to go all the way to the wall on the job. And over time, she will have you doing her job and instead of doing your job, or she'll have you doing all the work. Meanwhile, she's sitting in her part of the office pretty much ordering clothes online and online shopping or online going back and forth on Facebook instead of doing the job she was paid to do. And this is something you guys need to understand. When this female came into that job interview, she pretty much made a statement to those managers that she could do the work on that job. She would be responsible for the work on that job, and she would be accountable for the duties of that job. And you as a man have to make sure that she is held to the same standard that you would be held to as an employee. When she came to that job, she said she could do the work, then make her do the work. Do not let her get away with doing nothing on this job, because females will try to do that. They will get on the job and they'll start pushing your boundaries and pushing your buttons. And if they can get away with getting you to do their work, they will sit there and collect a paycheck at your expense. This is something I went in depth in my book, Stop Simping in the Workplace. And I talked about this in chapter 15, how these females will pretty much get you to do their work. And this is what I see in Chris Miller's situation with this new manager. She's trying to see how much work of her work she can get these guys to do by testing the boundaries with these guys, by pushing these crap tests where she gets guys to do work that they're not supposed to do and work other people are supposed to do, so that she can pretty much come in and then later on get these guys to do her work for them and then get that promotion at their expense. Guys, don't let any female manipulate you into doing her work. Pretty much nip her in the bud by setting those hard boundaries. And this is something many simps don't do. They don't understand that you have to set hard boundaries with females on the job, or they will start to take advantage of you. Because when it comes down to females on the job, they play chess, not checkers. And many men on the job, they pretty much play checkers and they focus on short term instead of looking at the big picture when you're dealing with females in the long term. When you're dealing with a female who, in the long term, you have to establish hard boundaries with them, you have to establish a line in the sand with them, and you have to let them know you are going to do the duties of your job and you're not going to cross any lines unless a higher up manager is talking about it's an emergency or a dire situation where you have to fill it in. And even in those cases, if I have to do the work of another person, then I'm going to get the other person's salary to do that. Because this is another thing that predatory females like to do on the job. They want you to do other people's work so they don't have to pay you for that exact same job. This is how they get over and make themselves look like they're so responsible, when in actuality they're putting people at risk. And when he was talking about in the video about people asking people to do jobs that union people do, that's a dangerous situation. That's a situation I also ran into later on when I was working at City College of New York. Now later on, they were coming to me talking about how the alarm was going off and I didn't ask people about their bags or to search their bags. And I said to myself, that's a job security is supposed to do, because in our library we did not have a security guard. And if I'm supposed to be sales and customer service, as they said to me in public in my performance appraisal, then sales and customer service's job is to check people out. It is not to ask people about any alarms going off or anything in their bags. That is the job of a security guard. And this is another thing that females try to do, is they want you to cross these boundaries and put yourself at risk, doing risky things that are outside of your job description that can put your health and safety at risk. And again, you pretty much have to establish a hard boundary for that by saying, look, that is outside of my job description, that is not my duty, And yes, while we have a productivity issue, you need to make sure that there are people here who are supposed to be doing this, who are union, and who are supposed to be doing these jobs, because the union rules are very strict. And they'll tell you, look, if our guys are supposed to be doing the loading and unloading, then only our guys can do the unloading and unloading. And the same thing with security. Only a licensed security guard is supposed to be dealing with students who pretty much have books or have alleged to have stolen books, because that is within their job description. A guy who checks out things at the counter is not supposed to do security, because once you cross that line and things go wrong, guess what's going to happen to you when things go wrong? This female is going to flip the game on you, and what she's going to do is tell you that, I didn't tell him to do that. She's going to tell her upper managers, I didn't tell him to do that. I didn't tell him to act that way. Meanwhile, she's pretty much told you to do this, and it's your word against hers. And guess whose word they're going to believe over yours? Hers. And that's what you guys have to think about when you're in the workplace, because there are a lot of simps in upper management and middle management, and they'll take the story of a female over your word. So that's why you have to establish a hard boundary for yourself and pretty much say, look, if this is not in my job description, I'm just not going to do it, because this is about my safety, my health, and pretty much my own security and my job security. Moreover, it is about holding her to the standards that she pretty much agreed to when she took this job and interviewed for this job. Because a lot of times when it comes down to these females, when they get on the job, they pretty much want to try to find ways to manipulate people so that they can move forward at their expense. And if a company has good, strong managers, they're going to set hard boundaries with her. And then sooner or later, what's going to happen with this female is one of two things. One, she may just go and get in line with everybody else and take responsibility. Or two, which is what happens in most cases when you deal with females who pretty much take advantage of simps, she's pretty much going to quit, because she's going to say that this environment pretty much isn't what she wants to do, because that's what she's going to say in many cases. This just isn't what I want to do. This job isn't making me happy. When in actuality, it's not making her happy because she can't go out here and manipulate people and take advantage of them and move forward at their expense and collect a check for doing absolutely nothing. Because that's what females in many cases try to do in these workplace situations. They will try to manipulate guys into doing their work for them. They'll collect a check at their expense, and you can't let that happen, because you have to understand that many of these females out here, they pretty much have 3 sources of income, and 2 of them are outside of this job. Whenever you go out here, you have maybe 1 or 2 sources of income, and your job is your primary source of income. If a man does not work, that man is not eating. If a woman doesn't work, there will be some simp to pretty much pay for her dinners, pay for her drinks, pay for her movies, and even in some cases pay her rent or give her a place to stay. So whenever a female gets on the job, work isn't a priority for her, because she knows in many cases her needs are going to be met by someone outside of that job. She knows she has multiple streams of income outside of that job, including a boyfriend, her parents, guys she dates, and even little side hustles she has. So she has multiple streams of income. Meanwhile, you as a man do not have those revenue streams. That's why you have to make efforts to protect your job and maintain your job, because this is one of your primary source of income. And if you're lucky and you have a side hustle, you pretty much have a small stream of revenue to pretty much sustain you for a little while. But again, those side hustles are pretty much there to be small streams of revenue while your job is your primary. So you have to protect it, because again, if a man does not work, he does not eat. But if a female does not work, there are people to support her. And this is what many simps just don't understand when they go out of their way to help a female on the job. And there's nothing really wrong with helping women in a workplace when there are heavy production periods, because you want to keep the productivity flowing. But when you come in here thinking that you're going to get brownie points, all you're going to do is impede the productivity of that business, because you're no longer working for the needs of the business. You're working to try to impress that female. And that's what we weren't hired for. You were hired to pretty much help meet the needs of that business. And that's the other big problem with simps in the workplace. They think that they're there to impress these females and get the attention of these females. No, those females were hired to do what you were hired to do, which is help meet the goals of that organization, help meet the needs of that organization, and help that organization increase its productivity and increase its profits. And you have to get everyone on that page, because that's how you pretty much master your skills and your craft. That's how you take care of yourself, and that's how you help meet the goals you want to meet in your career. When the big problem with a lot of these simps out here is that they don't have their priorities straight in the workplace, and whenever they see these females, instead of them staying focused on their goals, what they do is they start focusing on impressing this female. And when they do that, they pretty much set themselves up to be taken advantage of and manipulated by predatory females. So whenever you're in the workplace, you have to stay focused on your goals and what things you want to do, because you're the only person who is taking care of you. And this is something many men need to understand. You are the only person taking care of you. You are the only person who can provide for yourself. You are the only one who can take care of yourself. And you have to make efforts to protect your work job in any case, especially when you're dealing with females. This is why you have to understand the protocol for dealing with females on the job and learn how to keep it professional whenever you interact with females on the job. Now, I go into detail with these type of situations in my ebook, Stop Simping in the Workplace. And I wrote that book so that many men could learn about many of the situations they would run into when you interact with females in the workplace, and the protocols for dealing with them in the workplace. Moreover, I wrote the book so that you can understand how to stay focused on the job so that you won't wind up in jams that pretty much put your career at risk and put your livelihood at risk whenever you interact with women. Again, whenever a man doesn't work, a man doesn't eat. And when a man simps at work, he pretty much puts his way of life at risk, because he's mixing crap in with his food that pretty much makes a mess, that pretty much derails his life. You can pick up Stop Simping in the Workplace on Amazon.com and e-reader platforms. It's a great book that will teach many boys and men the life skills they'll need to pretty much stay in the workplace and protect their job from predatory females and dysfunctional females who want to take advantage of them and exploit them at their expense. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.